There are people who say almost nothing and yet control everything. You've seen them. The one who stays quiet in the meeting while everyone argues. The one who never explains their decisions. The one who doesn't defend themselves when accused. The world finds them mysterious. They're feared. They're trusted. Arthur Schopenhauer, one of the darkest philosophers in history, understood this before anyone else. He wrote that the man who controls his tongue controls his fate. But what did he actually mean? And why is silence not a weakness, but the sharpest weapon that exists? That's what the next 10 minutes are about.
We live in a culture of words, a culture that worships expression, that celebrates those who speak loudly, quickly, confidently, even when they have nothing meaningful to say. Social media rewards the loud. The workplace promotes the articulate. Schools praise the students who raise their hands first. From childhood, we were taught, speak up, express yourself, explain, defend, prove. Silence is seen as weakness, as having nothing to say, as losing. We internalize this so deeply that we forgot to question it. We forgot that some of the most powerful people in history, strategists, leaders, masters of influence, were known not for what they said, but for what they chose not to say. But look at what happens to people who talk too much. Watch them in meetings, in arguments, in moments of tension.
They reveal their plans too early and lose the advantage. They justify themselves and look guilty even when they're right. They argue and spend energy that could have gone toward action. The more they explain, the weaker their position appears. The more they defend, the more doubt they create. It's a paradox. The effort to convince often achieves the opposite. Schopenhauer observed this in salons, in universities, in everyday life. He saw brilliant minds destroy their own credibility, not through lack of intelligence, but through lack of restraint. Schopenhauer called this a waste of will. Every unnecessary word is a leak of strength, attention, power. Imagine your energy as a reservoir. Every time you speak without purpose, you drain it. Every time you react emotionally, you pour it out into the void. And for what? To win a pointless argument? To impress someone who won't remember your words tomorrow? To soothe your own ego for a few fleeting seconds? Meanwhile, the person who stays silent, they're conserving, observing, waiting for the moment when their words will actually matter.
Think about it. When was the last time you regretted staying silent? And when did you regret speaking? Be honest with yourself. How many times have you replayed a conversation in your head, wishing you had said nothing? How many times has a message you sent in anger haunted you days later? Now think, how many times have you genuinely suffered because you chose to stay quiet? Most people regret what they said because a word, once released, no longer belongs to you. It takes on a life of its own. It gets misinterpreted, weaponized, taken out of context, used against you in ways you never intended. Silence, on the other hand, can't be quoted, can't be twisted, can't be used as evidence of your weakness or foolishness. It remains yours, completely. And this is where Schopenhauer's philosophy begins. Not with a grand theory,
Not with a system of rules, but with a simple, uncomfortable truth that in a world obsessed with speaking, the real power knows when to shut up.
Schopenhauer believed the world is not driven by reason, but by will. A blind, insatiable force that pushes people to speak, argue, prove, react. This will is like a puppeteer, invisible, relentless, controlling every emotional outburst, every need to be heard, every desperate attempt to justify oneself. Think about your last argument. Were you really defending the truth? Or were you defending your ego, that fragile sense of self that demands validation? Most people are slaves to this will. They react automatically. Someone provokes them, they respond. Someone accuses them, they defend. Someone ignores them, they speak louder. It's a pattern, predictable, almost mechanical. And once you see it in others, you begin to see it in yourself. But the one who learns to be silent
They
steps
observe.
out of the game entirely.
They watch others lose control. They collect information while others spend it. Silence becomes a mirror. People reveal themselves in what they assume about your silence. The anxious person sees hostility. The guilty person sees judgment. The insecure person sees superiority. You say nothing, yet they tell you everything. Schopenhauer wrote in Aphorisms on the Wisdom of Life, "The safest way of not saying anything foolish is to say nothing." But this is more than advice about caution. It is a strategy of power.
What
Because
words
silence
destroy,
creates something.
it creates mystery. And mystery attracts. People want to decode what they don't understand. They begin filling the void with their own projections. They assign you depth you may or may not have, but which you allow them to see. This is why the most charismatic people often say the least. Not because they have nothing to say, but because they understand that presence speaks louder than words. Schopenhauer himself noticed, those who talk the most are usually listened to the least. Their words become noise, background static, forgettable. That is the power of silence in its purest form. But Schopenhauer went further. He wasn't talking about silence as a pause. He was talking about silence as a way of life. He lived alone for most of his years. He avoided social gatherings. He had no interest in being liked by people he didn't respect.